Hey Wolfpack, it's finally Saturday, and I know you always look forward to more stories. I still have a giveaway currently going on. If you want to enter, the link will be in the description down below. With that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. I know a number of people for whom online dating has led to lasting, meaningful relationships. Many still going strong as I write this. A close member of my extended family met his wonderful wife online. So please, don't take this as a criticism to the entire subject. My situation is just, well, a bit different. Please don't take this as me being arrogant, but I've never had trouble attracting the attention of girls. I've had several relationships, both long and short term. Some good, some awful. Over the past half a decade or so, however, I've become sort of a recluse. I work from home, and really only have one friend with whom I stay in regular contact. The rest of my old friends are still involved in a lifestyle that would have killed me if I had stayed. That being the case, I don't find myself with many opportunities to meet women, so I decided to try online. About a year and a half ago, I made a profile on one of the most popular sites, something along the lines of abundanceofsalmon.com, and began looking around casually, not really expecting to find anyone with whom I'd seen a chance with. 6 fruitless months or so had gone by when I checked my email and found an alert from the service saying that someone was interested in me. This had happened before, but they were from women I didn't have much interest in myself. This one was different though. She had a look to her that just caught my eye, and her profile picture caption was a quote from Captain America, the Winter Soldier, so I thought she might be worth looking into. Her name was Heather, and she lived about an hour away from me. She had shiny brown hair that hung past her shoulders and a matching set of eyes. Her teeth were perfect, and she had a wonderful smile. Her body type was such that I was curious if I'd unwittingly commissioned someone to build her in a factory to my preference. She was short and thin, with a tattoo on each shoulder blade. She was very pretty, and other details of her profile told me she had a sense of humor, which is of the utmost importance to me. I decided I was going to move forward, so I sent her a simple message introducing myself. She responded a few hours later, and we hit it off immediately. We discussed our likes and dislikes, our favorite movies, music, places we've even been. After a bit, we got into more baseline personal stuff, where we were in our lives, jobs, and much more. More time went by, and we delved into our past relationships, what we were looking for in any potential future ones, and anything else as well. One afternoon, a few months into our correspondence, which spanned first the website, then email, then texting and phone calls, I asked if she would want to video chat. She informed me that her laptop camera was broken at the time, but that she would do so on her phone later on in that day. I know what you're thinking, huge red flag. I thought the same thing at first. When she told me that, I was all but ready to never talk to her again. But as it was, later that night, my phone lit up with her contact info and jingled the tone that accompanies an incoming FaceTime call. I answered, and there she was. She began the conversation with, "I thought about the fact that I said my laptop camera was broken. That's basically a play from the Catfish Handbook. I'm sorry about that." We laughed about it, and we continued our great conversations. Heather had gotten out of a severely abusive relationship a few years earlier, so it took her some time to warm up to the idea of us meeting in person. Eventually, though, she did. We finally met for dinner about 6 months after I'd opened that first email that informed me that she was interested. We met at a restaurant almost exactly between our respective homes. It went wonderfully. We talked, laughed, and ate. When we were done, she went to the restroom while I paid the bill, which she'd insist we'd split, and outside the restaurant, we'd share our first kiss. I walked her to her car, and we went our separate ways. I was confident that it had gone well, and was excited to see her again in the future. Every girlfriend I've ever had some sort of issue with their weight, no matter how outlandish it was. Despite my proclamations that their bodies were perfect, They insisted to some degree of seriousness that they needed to lose weight and get skinnier. I told them as long as whatever they did was healthy, I'd support it. The day after our date, Heather seemed a little off. For the longest time, she wouldn't tell me what was wrong though, but after a few days, she let it slip that she was embarrassed to have met me, that she was fat. Naturally, I told her that was ridiculous, that she had an incredible body. She swore up and down that she was overweight, which put me in the awkward position of not wanting to invalidate how she was feeling while also not wanting to encourage any unhealthy eating behaviors. Eventually, she apologized for being dramatic, that she knew how to lose the little bit of weight she wanted to lose, and we moved on from the conversation. We continued video chatting over the next few months and met up twice, once for a movie and the other for mini-golf. Each time, she would make mention of having body image issues, which I did my best to respectfully quell. After the mini-golf date, things began to get a little weird though. Her focus on her weight seemed to get more and more intense, to the point that it was getting to be too much for me. I finally insisted that her body was fine, that she didn't need to lose the weight, and that if she continued obsessing over it, it might do her some good to take a step back from our relationship to focus on those issues, after which she apologized, saying sometimes she just got wrapped up in her own mind. I think it was because I talked to her and saw her every day that I didn't really notice it, but I came across a picture of her face she had sent me early on in the conversation, and when I compared it to the face I was currently talking to, it looked much healthier and full. Her face in its current state was gaunt and pale. I tried not to think too much of it, rationalizing that it could be from any number of things. Then, whereas our conversations over FaceTime could generally take place anywhere, with her walking about her house doing things, gardening in her backyard, relaxing in the bathtub, they now seemed to take place entirely in one room, where she'd always seemed vibrant and spirited. She now seemed glum and distant. The frequency of our calls lessened, and I became a little worried, but didn't want to express my concern for fear of alienating her, so I simply asked if she'd care to meet for dinner again. She countered with an invitation to her house, where we could eat and watch comic book movies, a mutual interest of ours, which then implied the addition of extracurricular activities. Naturally, I accepted the invitation, which was for a week later. For the 2 days before our next date, I didn't hear from her. I wasn't even sure if I should still go to her house. Finally, I heard back from her with a phone call. She apologized profusely, telling me she'd been very sick the past couple of days, and asked if we could reschedule our plans, which, of course, I accepted. Then I offered to bring her some soup and medicine, and do what I could to make her comfortable, which she accepted as well. She texted me her address, and after a stop at the store, I was on my way. When I texted her letting her know I was just a few minutes away, she responded by telling me just to walk in and go down the hallway to the room on the right, that she'd unlock her front door for me, and understandably gone back to rest, not feeling like getting up again. I parked my car, and with supplies in hand, I walked up the walkway to our front door. I turned the knob and pushed it open, getting hit with a wall of the foulest stench I've ever encountered. I covered my nose and mouth and stepped in. On the carpet were several dark-colored stains, some that looked old and dried, and another that looked fresh. A series of drips of different sizes leading through the front room and down a hallway. I stepped carefully through the house, trying to avoid the blemishes underfoot. I heard what sounded like a low-powered vacuum cleaner running, which made me wonder what she was doing. Considering she was so sick, I made it down the hallway and saw the door on the right slightly ajar. Within, it looked like the light was off, but a TV was on. With changing degrees of light flashing, I pushed open the door, and when I saw what lay within, I immediately dropped everything in my hands and vomited. Heather was naked on the floor in the corner and waved to me when I entered the room. Both her feet laid next to her, the stumps at the ends of her legs rudimentarily cauterized with a clothing iron that was plugged into the wall at her left. Blood, urine, and feces covered the floor around her. Several long strips of skin that had been flayed from her stomach and chest laid in a stack next to her feet, and several hundred tubes of antibiotic cream, both full and empty, were scattered around her. Newspaper over the wounds where her skin once was, blood and antibiotic cream soaked through it. One of her breasts had a gash through it, which makes me think she was attempting to remove them. But the worst part, without question, was the vacuum cleaner. A tube ran from the body of the appliance deep into the incision on her left side, a cut made in an area with her already flayed torso. The sound was possibly the worst part. It was a wet suction, accompanied by an intermittent sound of something solid passing through it. When I was done throwing up, I attempted to say something to Heather, but all that came out was a whimpering, "What the hell?" before I stumbled backwards out of the room. Though I could barely hear her over the vacuum, she responded with, "It's okay, I just really needed to lose just a few more pounds," before letting out what seemed to be an involuntary groan. I immediately called the police. They showed up with emergency services and tried to provide aid for Heather, though it didn't save her life. Needless to say, it'll be a little while before I try online dating again. I lived in a crappy house off of campus. The rent was cheap and deservedly so. I guess it was better than nothing though. Better than sharing a dorm. Plus, it was kinda cool to have my own place. The yard was small and bare, except for a lot of big bushes. Tall grass. But shit, I never felt like mowing the lawn, especially in the winter. Scott's Liquors was also within 50 feet of my one-story, one-bedroom house. The school was within walking distance, so yeah, I was all set. There was one more week until Christmas break here at Stanwick State University. I was cruising along to my English degree at what I considered to be a community college masquerading as a 4-year school. I'd already turned in my final papers just a few days ago, so I was done with the semester before most of everybody else. One more year, and I'd be done with the school entirely, and honestly, I was gonna miss this place. Yeah, I was a Stanwick lifer, but the school was fun. People were nice and friendly. Expectations were not too ridiculous, and I had my house. My mom and dad lived in town, but still, it was different having my own. No matter how bad or drafty or hot or messy it got, it was still Jamal Pleasance's house, all mine. On this Wednesday night, I was just chilling at home. I had nowhere to go, nowhere to be. I'd already gotten a couple of 30-packs over at Scott's. I was too cold to do much else. Even in South Georgia, the weather could still reach a brutal cold by this time of year, especially considering how close we were to the Flint River. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, but had a few close friends. They were fellow losers like myself. They did their best to keep me from getting too isolated at the house. I gotta say, they made college fun. They made Stanwick State a blast. We'd been watching YouTube videos on the flat screen and drinking all night, like any other night, really. The kitchen connected to the living room, making those beer runs all the more easier for us. All of us were 23, a little older than some of the other students on campus. I would say older than most, but Stanwick State seemed to exclusively target non-traditional students for whatever reason, and I mean non-traditional as in they could get pretty old. The three of us were pretty handsome, if not the prototype for Stanwick State's social hierarchy. There was me, of course, the neurotic crime writer. Like I said, I made good grades that could have been great had I tried more. Needless to say, I wasn't doing anything extracurricular. I liked watching movies and writing. Sure, I'd gotten lucky every now and then meeting girls and having drunken hookups, but shit, I was awkward. A guy like me, who wasn't a smooth talker, or exclusively handsome, had no chance on campus, at least, not at Stanwick State. So, my solace came with my writing, and yeah, hanging out with my two friends as well. There was Rashad. He currently sat in the recliner, stoned and drunk. He was a little better with the girls than I was. I thought the fact he looked like Chris Brown helped. Then again, some girls avoided him like the plague because of it. I guess it was a blessing and a curse. But still much more traditionally sexy than a childish Gambino lookalike such as I. Rashad was a fallen rapper turned poet. The boy had serious ambitions. I gotta say, he had some cool ideas too when he was motivated. I think his crazy butt spent more time playing video games in my living room than actually writing lines. Sitting next to me on the couch was the real weirdo of the bunch, Patrick. He was white, but woke. And I mean woke as in John Brown woke. The guy would rant and get angry all the time. I think he hated white people. Either way, Patrick had a passion. He was cool, but also weird as hell. Needless to say, he got laid less than me. Strange, considering he was unconventionally handsome. Then again, he was also posting his D-pics on Reddit and showing it to the girls online all the time. A real exhibitionist. He had some Reddit fame as well for some crazy incident where someone tried to kill him earlier this year. Like I said, a real weirdo. Like me. And to an extent, like Rashad. We were three creative outsiders. I guess you could call us hipsters, but that term almost seems too mainstream for us. I likened us to a geekier Rat Pack better. Around 8, we got tired of watching music videos and movie countdowns. I could just tell by the way everyone was up in their phones. Rashad was basically on his own recliner island at this point, texting and smoking a joint. I was too on my phone, the 6 Miller Lite of the night in my other hand. Patrick kept rambling about classic horror movies. The guy came alive at night like a spastic vampire. I could have sworn he'd been drinking coffee rather than cheap beer. Naturally, I just tuned him out. Like Rashad and I always did when we got really drunk. My eyes stayed glued to my phone, glued to Tinder. Yeah, I couldn't help myself. Male companionship only got me so far, especially when I was hammered. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Patrick put on Dementia 13, an old classic we'd only seen about 15 times. "I had to, bro!" Patrick yelled out, his voice fueled by drunken enthusiasm. He became an overexcited Tarantino when you mixed horror with the booze. But I wasn't listening to him, or watching the opening credits for that matter. I had my eyes on a girl. After swiping on endless women, I finally had a match. Not just a match, but a local 21-year-old who went to Stanwix State. Jackpot. Hello, Shannon, I thought. Her profile picture alone captivated me. She had big eyes and a big smile. Her quirkiness intrigued me as well. The quick bio mentioned an interest in music. Her wardrobe and style made that clear enough. She was definitely the punk rock type. Zoe Kravitz with the 80s fashion. I liked it, and this was just off one picture. Right before I could check out Shannon's other pictures, a hand snatched my shoulder. I leaped back like a jump scare had reached out the screen to grab me. "Hey man, you watching it?" Patrick's overexcited deep voice asked me. I yanked my arm back. "Nah bro, we've already seen it." Annoyed, I turned my focus back to what interested me more than the 1963 movie, Shannon. "Alright, whatever." Patrick looked back at the flat screen. "Your loss." I scrolled through the rest of Shannon's pretty pictures. "We've already seen it." One of Shannon's pictures stood out in particular. A Halloween pic of her wearing a female mannequin mask, complete with a distorted smile. In the photo, she wore leggings and a cape. Great body for sure, but that mask was creepy as hell. More Marilyn Manson than Kiss. Amidst the movie's freaky soundtrack, I heard Rashad's phone vibrate. I looked over to see Rashad stare at his phone. His concentration rivaled mine. His fingers typed up a reply in frenetic fashion, like he was an iPhone slave. My phone then buzzed. Intrigued, I checked my Tinder. A December miracle had happened, something I wasn't familiar with at all. A girl had sent me the first message. Not just one of those awkward to meet girls on here looking for attention either. I mean, Shannon had messaged me. "Sup, sexy?" I kept my composure as best as I could. She had to be a spammer. But what if she wasn't? Fueled by lust and curiosity, I sent Shannon a reply. Nothing, just chilling. "Y'all making me watch this by myself?" a belligerent Patrick asked. "You done watched this shit 1 billion times," I heard Rashad tell him. Grinning, I faced Patrick. "Yeah, I like it, but you picked the same shit." To my surprise, Patrick was immersed in his phone as well. Dude looked like he was typing up a novel. Oh well, we were millennials after all. Not like I didn't enjoy their company, even when we were just sitting around on our phones. "It's still a classic, dude," Patrick replied while texting. I smirked at the sight. Rashad was over there doing the same. Such intense texters. A vibration brought me back to my Tinder crush. Shannon had sent another message. "Just checking you out. Nice pics, boo." My smile grew bigger. And from there, Shannon and I continued flirting, and no, she never once asked me for a credit card number or my social security digits. Addicted to this chart, I lost track of Rashad and Patrick. I heard their phones go off in a quick succession over the next few minutes, in addition to the steady rhythm of their typing fingers. All of the noises formed one big technology-driven melody. And all the while, Coppola's Dementia 13 kept playing in the background. I glanced up once, just in time to see a groundskeeper get decapitated. Still a great sequence. I couldn't watch for too long though, not with Shannon constantly drawing me back in. We traded compliments and phone numbers. Shannon told me she thought the campus party scene was pretty lame too. Then she added that might change now that she let me. Okay, I was getting excited. "Yo, Jamal!" Rashad said. I looked up from my phone to see Rashad walking up to me. "Hey, I gotta get going, man," Rashad told me. "This early?" Patrick said. "Yeah, bro," Rashad said. He flashed us a beaming smile. We knew what time it was. "You got a girl?" I asked him. Still holding his phone, Patrick leaned in closer like a friend leaning in from the back seat. "Yeah, who is she?" "I ain't telling y'all, man," Rashad told us. His phone erupted with another vibration. With the anticipation of a kid on Christmas morning, he checked the text. "She's fine as hell, though." Like a compulsion, Rashad got to work texting a reply. Normally, I'd want him here all night, but tonight was going to be less lonely. At the very least, Shannon was going to make it less boring. "Alright, well, be careful," I said to Rashad. "Yeah, bro," Patrick added. "You sure you can walk straight?" I quipped. "Yeah, man," an agitated Rashad responded, as if I was interfering with his concentration on the hookup. "She must be at the college," Patrick said. "Nah, I ain't saying," Rashad said. He sent the text. "I'll see y'all, man." He fist bumped each of us before heading towards the front door. "Put on some new goddamn movies next time, too," he told Patrick. Chuckling, Patrick held up his hands. "Hey, you can't go wrong with the classics, bro." Rashad laughed. "Find some new classics then." Right when he opened the door, I heard Rashad's phone buzz once more. Like an invading army, cold air swooped in. Shivering, I looked over to see Rashad responding to another text as he closed the door behind him. "Maybe she'll have friends," Patrick joked. He turned his attention back to his own phone. I'd never seen him this disinterested in watching one of his favorite flicks before, even on his sexting-crazed nights. Yet, there he was, texting away to somebody apparently. My phone vibrated again. I looked down to see several of Shannon's messages awaiting my excited gaze like unopened Christmas gifts. I couldn't help but smile. Shannon just kept telling me how hot I was, how crazy it was she hadn't seen me around the campus before. I told her that I was a bit antisocial, the isolated writer type. I wasn't exactly ever invited to go out to the Landing or any of the other local bars. But she didn't care. She loved horror movies as well. And above all, Shannon seemed genuinely interested in me, my talents, my interests, ditto. I would tell her, shit, she did soundtracks for student films. How sick is that? Of course, we still sexted, and yeah, her body was sweet as well. As Dementia 13 reached its wild finale, I noticed Patrick wasn't saying anything. Hell, I'm not even sure he ever even looked up from his phone. He just slouched back on the couch, his green eyes not glued to the flat screen, but to his phone screen instead. I heard the steady vibrations erupt off his phone, and his fingers continued typing. Maybe it was just one of his sexting rampages, or maybe he found a chick as well. Was the Rat Pack all gonna get lucky tonight? For once, I kinda wanted to hear Patrick's voice just to know if he was still alive. "Hey, who you talking to?" I asked. Patrick smiled at me. "A girl." Whoa. "Aw, screw you, man," Patrick chuckled. I gave him a light shove. "Nah, it's about time you got laid." "Ditto, my man." Patrick polished off his 8th beer in one swig. What could I say? He was right. We both needed to get some. I looked back at my phone just in time to see Shannon's fresh text. "I'm coming over. Where you at, baby?" All kinds of possibilities swirled through my excited mind. I took a sip of my 10th beer. The buzz was hitting me hard, as was the adrenaline rush I got from Shannon. When I heard Patrick's frantic fingers working overtime, I sent Shannon my address. "Get here when you can," I teased. She gave me a quick reply, "I'm coming over now." An emoji blowing a kiss adorned the message. Holy shit, I thought. This was really happening, even right now. I'm still too embarrassed to tell you the last time I'd gotten laid up to that point. I finished off my beer, prepping myself like a football player on a Sunday morning. I let out a drunken war cry. Patrick gave me a weird look. "You alright?" Alarmed, I looked at my friend. Shit, what was I gonna do with him? "What?" Patrick chuckled. Dramatic music pulled my attention over towards the TV. Dementia 13's end credits stared back at me. Then, Patrick's loud typing hit me. I looked over to see Patrick send another text. He looked comfy on that couch, and judging by the many empty long necks resting at his feet, I knew something else. This guy was drunk. Patrick's phone vibrated again. I saw him smile bigger and goofier as he read his latest text. Damn Patrick, I thought. I loved having him here 95% of the time, especially at night, but this wasn't one of those lonely nights. My phone buzzed me back to my tantalizing plans, and there, of course, was another text from Shannon. "On the way, sexy. You better be ready. Just me and you." God damn it, Patrick. Restless, I looked at him. He was too busy texting to notice my stern stare. I kept my glare on him for a moment, for what seemed like an eternity. Oblivious, he finished his novel and sent it. "Patrick," I finally said, not even trying to hide my agitation. With a goofy grin plastered on his face, Patrick looked at me. "Yeah, what's up?" I waved at the TV. By now, the screen was back to YouTube's homepage. "The movie's over." Patrick glanced over at it. "Oh yeah." Trying to be that great best friend I usually was, I nodded. "Well, if you don't mind, I think I might need some alone time." Quicker than Sinatra following after a dame, Patrick leaped off the couch. "Oh shit, I got you." "Yeah," I said with a smile. "I'm not trying to be a cockblock, dude." Staggering at the door, he knocked over a few of his empty long necks. "Shit, my bad." With drunken clumsiness, he stooped down and started putting the bottles on a coffee table. "Sorry, man." "Nah, you're fine," I reassured him. I helped him pick up the long necks. God, he needed the help. His drunken grasp kept dropping almost every bottle. "Shit, my bad, bro." Patrick went on, his voice weak and slow with intoxicated glory. "I got it." Standing back up, Patrick retrieved the car keys from his pocket. I'm not the biggest fan of bros before hoes, but this was one of my best friends. If he was this smashed, I couldn't let him leave on a suicide mission. Bros before whatever the hell Shannon was, I figured. I stood and grabbed Patrick's shoulder. "Hey, if you want to just stay in the bedroom, we'll figure it out." Dismissive, Patrick waved his hand. "Nah, man, I ain't gonna do that to you." He took his phone out of his pocket. "You sure?" "Yeah, bro, don't worry about it." For once, Patrick broke away from me and stumbled over towards the door. The man was eager to leave. Jesus. I usually could never get him to leave. It was like he co-owned the house without even paying. Not that I minded since he was my boy. Like a security blanket on those lonely nights when I was here by myself. I gave Patrick a sly smile. "You got a girl too?" Chuckling, Patrick stopped at the door and faced me. "Yeah, His phone vibrated, interrupting him. Full of drunken vigor, he read the text. "That's awesome, man," I said. I patted Patrick on the back. "Yeah, bro, getting laid," an enthusiastic Patrick said. He responded to the text message. Easily, the fastest I'd ever seen him reply to a text. This guy didn't respond to me for hours sometimes. "The American dream," I said. With that, I opened the door and led Patrick out onto the front porch. Shivering, I jammed my hands into my jacket pockets. I felt my phone vibrate again. "Sorry, Shannon. Bros before Tinder dream girls." "I'll text you tomorrow," Patrick told me. He walked down the porch stairs in slow, cautious steps. At least, he wasn't being too reckless. "Alright, bro," I said to him. "Just be careful." Stopping a few feet away from me, the confident Patrick faced me, his omnipresent shit-eating grin well on display. "Yeah, man." Call me if you need anything, if you need help, whatever. I got you, dude. Alright. Pulling my jacket in tighter, I gazed around the yard. Yeah, it was a small property, but it was dark. Then again, there wasn't many streetlights out here, and Scott's Liquors had closed up an hour ago. A couple of my neighbors had their Christmas lights and decorations on, just a few smiling snowmen and a jolly St. Nick, but that was about it. Combined with the desolation and heavy wind made me feel like I was in a graveyard, only I wasn't. I was home. I heard Patrick get to work on another text. "Damn, it's cold," he said. I grinned at him. "Yeah, well, be safe, bro." Eager to escape the freezing weather, I started to head back inside. "Hey, Jamal!" I heard Patrick's drunken yell. Stopping in the doorway, I turned and faced him. Patrick gave me a sly finger gun gesture. "Good luck, my man." I smirked. "You too, bro." With that, I went back inside and closed the door. Maybe I was leaving Patrick in the cold, but he had a damn car, and a girl. He would be just fine, like Rashad, and hopefully just like me. Inside, the house was quiet. No music or movies were on. No loud drunks were talking or texting. If my yard was a cemetery, this felt like a funeral home, and damn if I didn't feel like a hermit in here. I glanced out a living room window and saw Patrick still texting in my yard. Oh well, at least he wouldn't get a DUI on the front lawn, nor would he get a texting while driving ticket when he wasn't, driving. Hopefully his girl would pick his drunken butt up. A ferocious vibration brought me back to the task at hand. Shannon. She'd sent me several more texts. Shannon said she was running late, but she'd be here, real soon. My body surging with excitement, I scanned the living room. The place was a mess. Thanks a lot, guys. In less than 10 minutes, I had the room clean. Well, clean enough. The bottles and cans overpopulated the garbage can. A fresh blanket covered my stained couch. I jammed all my stray clothes into the closet. I also dug through my avalanche of hangers to find the best t-shirt and cargo pants. Rushing more than a girl on prom night, I changed into this fresh outfit. In a race against time, I put on deodorant, cologne, freshened up my hair, brushed my teeth for good measure. I looked nice. Yeah, I was awkward as hell, and an alienated writer, but I could be hot when I tried. All the while, Shannon kept sending me texts here and there. Last I heard, she was a couple of blocks away. I told her I could pick her up, but she said she lived on campus and enjoyed the walk. She was a night owl like me, I suppose. Damn, maybe we really were made for each other. In the living room, I put on a 2000s indies rock playlist. Something neutral for the Stanwyck State crowd. The Stokes, Foster the People, etc. Anxious, I went back to our text messages. Me and Shannon's first conversations. Our love for horror movies. Her interest in crime stories. And yeah, okay, I looked at her sex as well. Those big breasts would grab anyone, man. But most of all, she just looked natural. Not like a stick figure or fake IG model. I mean, don't get me wrong, she looked hot. Just not generic. Like she didn't give a crap about what others thought of her. Average weight, pretty face. Not only was it awesome, but at least it squashed my fears she was a catfishing 70-year-old woman or scammer. Before I could go through some of the other pictures, a new message from her graced my screen. I'm here. The anticipation overwhelmed me. I trembled like a kid about to get on their first roller coaster. I looked over at the front door when another vibration drew my attention. Shannon's latest message. Come outside. Her grinning bitmoji arrived right after it. The weather may have been frightful, but Shannon's cuteness warmed me up enough to face the cold. I threw on my hoodie and stepped out into the cold December air. The chilling wind battered me like rain. Shivering, I closed the door. I couldn't see shit in the darkness. All my neighbors had turned off their lights for the night. Their Christmas lights and decorations were off too. No one left those on all night until well after the semester was over. Clutching my phone, I could see my breath in the air. It was too cold to even talk. My hands frozen to my phone. I typed my next text to Shannon at an ultra-slow pace. Where are you? Eager to meet this mysterious Tinder beauty, I walked into my front yard, or better yet, I stumbled around in my drunken stupor. I realized I had no chance in this darkness. I turned on my phone's flashlight for help. Through the small light, I saw nothing on my lawn. like a cautious explorer. I walked towards the backyard. I took slow, steady steps. I didn't want to fall in front of Shannon, if she was even back here. "Shannon?" I said aloud, folding my arms in a weak attempt to stay warm. I sent her another text. "Hey, are you out here?" I felt my foot scrunching something in the high grass. A beam of light erupted right beneath me. Startled, I looked down at the glowing iPhone screen, only something was covering most of the screen, like water or dirt. What the hell? I picked it up, nervous. A thick substance stuck to my hand like paint. Red paint. To my horror, I saw blood all over the screen. Normally, I'd drop it in an instant, but in the cold, the blood felt like water quickly freezing. The phone felt glued to my trembling hand. Not only that, but my nervous eyes recognized the phone's home screen. A picture of me, in Patrick and Rashad. One of our bromance photos, and one of Patrick's faves. Scared, I glanced around the yard but saw nothing. I wiped some of the blood off Patrick's phone, where I saw he had a few notifications. Maybe I was being nosy, but I had to know what happened to my friend. His blood was literally on my hand, for God's sakes. And there was so many text messages, all to this one girl he'd been talking to. The messages were filthy. Patrick moved fast, and yes, he'd sent her a collection of his D-pics. As impressive as it was, my eyes gravitated towards her sex as well. They were the same ones I'd gotten from Shannon. There was Shannon's hot body, and her big breasts. The girl's phone number was all too familiar. The uncomfortable cold I felt turning into discomforting fear. I looked back at my phone, at my cherished contact, Shannon. My heart sank, my spirit shattered by overwhelming terror. I already knew the answer, but still, I looked back at Patrick's phone. The phone numbers were identical. Him and Shannon had been talking all night. Frantic, I scrolled down to the end of their conversation. Panic collided into my fear. I read where Patrick had told her my address. He said he might be too drunk to drive. Then, the last text Shannon sent Patrick gave me chills. Even in the cold, "I'll meet you there, boo." My phone buzzed with life, scaring the crap out of me. I jumped back, dropping Patrick's phone. A new text from Shannon greeted me. Nervous, I stole another look around the yard. I didn't see anything though. Then again, it was too dark to see much besides the large bushes. I went to Shannon's latest text, a video message. My deep, heavy breathing hit the cold air. Full of dread, I mashed play. The screen filled with a close-up of Patrick's horrified face. There he was lying on the ground, a large cut on his head leaking blood. "No!" I heard him cry out. Then a frenzy of stabs hit his face. Fast hits, but not fast enough for me to not see the gloved hand holding a long hunting knife. Filled with sadness and horror, I watched the murder play on. Blood erupted over the camera. Patrick's screams and cries became drowned out by all the flowing of blood. His face, nothing more than flayed flesh. Redness splashed all across the high grass. My lawn was now red and green for the holidays. "Patrick!" I said in a terrified whimper. Shit. I felt tears slide down my own face. The tears so painful in the cold. On the video, the murderer sunk the knife straight into Patrick's eye. The kill shot. "Oh God," I said. Patrick's head hit the ground. His face, nothing but red slices. The knife handle stuck out of his eyeball like a victory flag. Saddened, I tried to wipe away the tears. Almost impossible in the cold, especially when more tears kept pouring from my eyes. The video ended with the killer turning the camera to face her, and judging by her unique mask, I knew the killer was Shannon. The grinning mannequin mask looked right into the camera, like Shannon was singling me out. And then, with the quickness of an apparition, the video ended. I was back in my text messages. During the torture I felt watching the disturbing video, I hadn't noticed Shannon's latest text. "Do you see me?" Her winking bitmoji soon followed. In a panic, I staggered back, amidst the tears and terror. I felt woozy and disoriented, like I hit a pitfall trap. I stumbled into one of the bushes. Floundering like a helpless animal, I felt all along the shrubbery. Then I made contact with cold skin, fresh blood. Another bright light erupted near my hand. Screaming, I leaped off the bush. My horrified eyes stared at the grisly sight. Positioned like an art exhibit, Rashad's corpse was sprawled out on the bush. Deep stab wounds were all over his chest. Ferocious stab wounds. I could see organs peeking out like hidden items in a ripped package. Rashad's insides were now on the outside. More tears slid down my face. Deep breaths flowed from my mouth like chimney smoke. I felt even colder, like the red stains drenching my clothes were starting to give me hypothermia. Rashad's phone was still glowing near his dead hand. He had a few missed calls, all of them from a saved contact. Hot, weird Tinder girl. I didn't even have to check the number to know who she was. My eyes drifted over to one of the other bushes. Patrick's corpse also sprawled out across it, his face hacked beyond belief. In this weather, both he and Rashad would resemble frozen cadavers at some point, like frozen yard ornaments from my house. "No!" I yelled. "Oh shit!" My phone came to life with another vibration. Terrified, I checked it. A new message from Shannon. "I see you." I heard harsh footsteps stomping the tall grass behind me. Thick drops echoed towards me. Frightened, I whirled around. Hurtling out of the darkness like a javelin, a long knife jabbed straight into my abdomen. Cringing in pain, I cried out. I saw the gloved hand let go of the weapon. I clutched the knife's handle and felt all the blood ooze through my fingertips. Like cold spring water, it iced me to the bone. My heavy breathing intensifying, I fell down to one knee, and I looked up in horror. And there stood Shannon. She wore her Halloween outfit, the leggings and the cape, the mannequin mask's unforgiving smile. More blood trickled through my drenched hand. The cold wind and sharp pain paralyzed me to that very spot. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare at the killer, at her mercy. Taunting me, Shannon leaned down right in front of me. So close, I thought the mask's plastic mouth was going to rip out a chunk of my flesh. Inches away from my lips, she came to a stoic stop. I couldn't move. I couldn't even say a word, or scream. Shannon lifted up the bottom of the mask. I looked on at her red lips, shocked. She then gave me a tender kiss. "I'll see you later, beautiful." She reassured me in a soft tone, a pretty voice that disguised sadistic pleasure. A smile crossed her lips. She was just having fun, just toying with me. With that, Shannon put the mask back on and stood up like a victorious general. Still clutching my wound, I yelled out in pain. I wanted to call her many names. I wanted to call her all of it, but I couldn't. I quivered in the cold, my drunken state now imbued with the pain of getting stabbed. Behind uneasy eyes, I watched Shannon reach into her hoodie pocket. My tears weren't going away. Both my tears of pain and of sadness over seeing what was left of my best friends. My only friends. With the indifference of a socialite tossing $1 to a bum, Shannon threw her phone right in front of me. The off-brand piece of crap splashed through the blood-stained weeds. Like a spotlight, its glowing screen further illuminated my nasty wound. Shielding my eyes from the bright screen, I turned away and let out a tormented yell. But when I looked back, Shannon was gone. Like a ghost, she'd vanished into the cold December night. In a pathetic search, I shined my phone all around the yard. I would never find shit. Not at this point. Shannon was long gone, and in her final taunt. She'd left me her burner phone. Right now, I couldn't even crawl to warmth, and when I tried, I just fell over like a helpless toddler, lying in the blood-soaked grass. My frigid fingers moved at a literal glacier pace. But after an eternity, I finally managed to type in 911, and then called the police. Moments later, I was taken to the hospital. Thank God for living in a small town. If the ambulances hadn't come sooner, I might have died out there with my boys. Then again, maybe I should have. Maybe I didn't deserve to be the lucky one. The police recovered the burner phone Shannon left on my lawn. No real personal info was on it, other than all her texts. Oh yeah, and her Tinder account. Outside of my friends and I, it turned out she talked to a lot of guys on there. Several of them had been murdered over the last few months, and in her phone's gallery were dozens of pictures and videos of her killing each and every one of them, all while wearing that mask. She had been trapping us all along. She was the match from hell. Once I recovered in the hospital, I did my best to get back to a normal life. Well, about as normal as I could given the circumstances. I moved out of that house. No way I could stay there any longer. Not with the memories of me Patrick and Rashad's epic nights. I could never look at the small yard the same way either. The high grass and bushes were a graveyard for those memories. I ended up graduating from Stanwick State a year later. I'm living with my folks currently, working part-time in a soulless internet job. The large scar forever on my abdomen. The scars of losing my best friends forever lodged deep in my mind. God knows, I think about our time together every day. And late at night, I cry thinking about my weirdo friends. Everyone else can always relive those college memories with their old friends and buddies, but I can't, and I never will. I plan on moving out soon. I need to move out. Not as a way to escape the pain and memories. That'll never go away, but just out of fear. You see, the police never caught Shannon. She's still out there somewhere. I don't know. Maybe her name wasn't even Shannon. Maybe those pictures weren't even her. Who knows? Maybe she's back on Tinder, or some other dating app. I try to avoid those things now. And when I do indulge, it's only when I'm at my loneliest and most vulnerable. But even being as careful as I am, there's still that lingering fear in the back of my mind. I'll see you later, beautiful. The sincerity of her soft voice has always stuck with me. Shannon's gentle, confident voice, like the call of a psychopath's siren. Rather than a farewell, Shannon's words felt like a promise. And Shannon seemed like the type who always kept her promise. My ex-boyfriend is kinda rude. That seems like the proper way to start this. I'm not quite familiar with typing up or sharing personal issues like this, so I'm sorry if my wording is a little off. My mind is in absolute chaos right now. My thoughts are so rampant in my head, I can almost feel them pinging around my skull. We'll start a few weeks ago. I reached the end of my rope with my now ex-boyfriend, Jamie. Long story short, after being suspicious for a few months, I finally found out he was seeing another woman. I was hurt, I was pissed, and I felt terrible. Was I not good enough? Not pretty enough? What did she have that I didn't? You know, self-deprecating BS. Leave it to him, making me feel awful over something that wasn't even my fault. In my fury, I make stupid decisions, as we all do from time to time. My broken heart spoke to me, said, "Download Tinder." In a tempting voice, my brain argued that it was probably the least helpful thing I could do for my psyche, but common sense was far from reach at this point. With men at my literal fingertips, knowingly serving as a distraction from my crippling pain and self-destructive behavior, how could I say no? Like I said, common sense was long gone. A few days later, I had already matched and was chatting with a guy, Landon. He was good-looking, well-mannered, and down to screw pretty much any time. People do this. They hook up when they're single. Casual sex is perfectly fine as long as I know that I'm being safe, right? Right. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Flash forward to that Friday night. I'm not going to lie and say that I was feeling confident. I showered, shaved everything from the neck down, exfoliated, the whole 9 yards. I'd never been with anyone besides Jamie, so my whole body was shaking with anxiety. I kept repeating to myself over and over again that it was just a Tinder date. I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do. If things went well, then we can go from there. I kept pepper spray on my keyring too, because I'm not entirely an idiot. I'll save you the trouble of reading about a date, because that's not the important part here. Basically, it went well. After I finally calmed down, thanks to a few glasses of wine, our chemistry was off the charts. My foot rubbed his beneath the table. It felt red hot. He had beautiful blue eyes that held mine, and the people surrounding us at the restaurant were as good as gone. He insisted that we go back to his place for a nightcap. I asked for the check about 30 seconds later. I almost didn't recognize the way my body was reacting, even though my thoughts were different. Guys, I'm not exaggerating when I say that I was completely captivated and aroused by his mere presence. It was confusing, but exhilarating at the same time. I was never the girl who flirted with only my facial expressions, deepened my voice, threw myself at him like I had no self-respect. As the night progressed, I was overcome with lust, like a dog begging for water on a hot day. When our lips connected, there was no stopping us. I let go of all my anger, all of my thoughts, reservations. I let go of everything. That night, I had had the best sex I'd ever had in my life. I'm talking legs shaking, back-to-back orgasms, sweat rolling off every part of my body. Now that I think back on it and picture it in my head, it almost felt like some sort of dream, or some sort of trance. It was so out of character, but I blamed it on all the emotions I was holding in from that awful breakup. Landon and I texted a few more times after that night, but it felt different. I felt different. Not like you'd expect. I didn't feel guilty or disgusting. I just felt off. That's the only way I can describe it. I'm not the best with words and conveying a feeling, but my body didn't feel like my own anymore, like I was a different person with the same skin. That probably makes no sense. Moving on. It gets even more odd. The more I think about that night, the more I think about Landon and everything we'd done, the crazier I felt. The attraction to him dissipated and floated away. I had no drive to see him ever again. I remember his skin being hot, smooth like silk. Now, it seemed like the memory made him feel gray, bland. His electric blue eyes were dull, like some kind of inner glow that had drawn me into him was gone, and I felt nothing for him anymore. No attraction. He was almost unrecognizable. I was sure that I was losing my mind. Fast forward to this morning. I've spent the last week wallowing in regret and self-pity. I came to my senses and deleted Tinder, acted like that part of my life never happened, and tried to move forward. I was laying in bed around 8 a.m., convincing myself to get up and get ready for work when my stomach dropped. My throat tightened and tingled, saliva pooling beneath my tongue. I sprinted like a blur into the bathroom and heaved into the toilet, with fresh sweat still forming in drops on my forehead. I frantically tried to think of what I ate yesterday. Could it have made me sick? I went back further and further. In the heat of the moment, in the heavy days of my trance, did I remember? Did I remember Landon putting on a condom? Why did that whole night seem so far away now? There was absolutely no way in hell I was. I didn't even want to say the word. A loud ping from my bedside table jerked me from my thoughts, and I tried to steady my breathing as I scrambled to read the text. From Landon. Did you receive the good news yet, beautiful girl? I stared in awe at the screen, typed out, "What the hell are you talking about?" and threw the phone into my purse. I was out the door and in my car in less than 3 minutes. I bought 2 water bottles and 5 pregnancy tests. I had to be sure. I fought back a panic attack as I checked out, not bothering to call my boss and tell him that I'd be late to work. Once I was home, stomach full of water, I waited anxiously to pee. No response from Landon, so I texted him again and told him that he wasn't being funny and that he needed to talk to me as soon as possible. Now, I'm sitting here on the bathroom floor with 5 pregnancy tests in front of me, all of them reading a tiny but blaring plus sign. I have one message on my phone from Landon and it reads, "Wonderful, abide by the following responsibilities. Meat should be the priority in your diet. You will crave it. That is normal. The developmental process will be quick and sometimes painful. You will endure it. Should you attempt to rid your body of it, you will not survive. You are attached and codependent. Do not seek medical help under any circumstances. You are being monitored always. Keep that in mind. I have decided that your body and your womb are both qualified to endure the process. You have qualities that are valued greatly in regards to a new generation. Much appreciated, beautiful girl. Talk soon." Thanks for watching, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your story, my email and subreddit will be in the description below. And also, if you're not subscribed, please do if you want. And don't forget to like and comment as well. Have beautiful nightmares. And I will see you next time.